What's a harmless prank that spiraled completely out of control? In high school, my friends and I decided to pull what we thought would be a harmless prank on our history teacher, Mr. Callahan. He was the kind of teacher who ran his classroom with military precision, everything in its place, every word calculated. But he also had a dry wit that made us think he could handle a little joke. Our plan? Swap his sturdy cushioned desk chair for one of those wobbly, squeaky folding chairs. Simple, harmless, or so we thought. We made our move during lunch. A couple of us distracted the janitor, while another friend snuck into Mr. Callahan's classroom to make the switch. We all gathered at the back of the room to witness our masterpiece unfold. As expected, Mr. Callahan strolled in, briefcase in one hand, coffee in the other. He sat down, and the chair gave an exaggerated squeak. We stifled our laughter, waiting for him to notice. But then the chair wobbled dangerously. Before he could catch himself, it collapsed under him. He fell backward, coffee flying in an arc before landing all over him and the floor. The room went silent. At first we thought it was just embarrassing, funny even, but when Mr. Callahan didn't immediately get up, panic set in. A student rushed forward to help, and we saw he was holding his shoulder in pain. His face was pale, and he muttered something about his arm. Someone ran to call the nurse. It was no longer a prank, it was a full-blown emergency. Mr. Callahan was taken to the hospital, and we were left standing there, feeling like the worst people on earth. It turned out he dislocated his shoulder in the fall and suffered minor burns from the spilled coffee. The administration launched an investigation. Suddenly, what we thought was a funny joke felt like a life sentence. My friends and I tried to downplay it, but guilt gnawed at us. We eventually confessed. The punishment was severe: 2 weeks of suspension, mandatory community service, and public apologies to Mr. Callahan and the school. On top of that, we were banned from the senior trip, a punishment that felt like a death sentence for any teenager. But the worst part was facing Mr. Callahan. When we finally apologized, we braced ourselves for anger. Instead, he looked at us calmly and said, "I know you didn't mean for this to happen, but life doesn't care about your intentions. You're responsible for your actions, and this is a lesson you'll remember." That hurt more than any suspension. Months later, at graduation, Mr. Callahan handed me my diploma. As I whispered another apology, he smiled and said, "You're not bad kids. You just made a bad choice. Learn from it." That moment stuck with me. I cringe at how careless we were. What was supposed to be a harmless prank could have ended much worse. It's a stark reminder of how quickly things can spiral out of control. Have you ever pulled a prank that went horribly wrong?